has captivated readers from Japan and China to Southeast Asia, to Europe and North America. It was one of the first texts that scholars working on the history of Tibetan Buddhism looked at, that somehow encapsulated what the Buddhism of Tibet was like. It somehow told a very Tibetan story. And even though it was Tibetan, we could all understand it. I think it's one of the reasons why we love to teach it in classes on Buddhism and even on Tibetan Buddhism.
Well, I think people like to read the Zen.
Sure,
koans
for exactly the same way. No, I think that's exactly right. I think in the end, he tells a good story. And a good story is something that transgresses or transcends regional or even historical.
How do you think he actually did that to make it into a good story? So he used all these fragments, but how did he make it a good story?
Well, I mean, first of all, he wove together a continuous arc from Milarepa's birth all the way to his death. So this is the first thing. But he also, there are sort of innumerable moments in the story that have no clear didactic value. And of course, the life story of any saint is meant to tell us what the life of the saint is like and show us a model for living the kind of saintly life. But even beyond that, there are innumerable elements in the story that have no clear didactic purpose. What they do is they show us a real life, the life of a real person. And in that, I think they give us something to hold on to. Like, there's a great account where at one point he's just sort of cast black magic and sort of destroyed his own village, and he's running away, he's sort of escaping with one of his companions. They split up and they say we'll meet again later at this guest house several days from them. So his companion shows up first, and Milarepa is several days late. Eventually, the companion finds the innkeeper and says, well, I'm looking for my friend who's supposed to meet me here. And found him, and the innkeeper says, well, there's this kind of banquet going on in the next village over, and guys like you love to drink, so maybe he's down there at the banquet. And if you don't have a cup to drink beer, I'll lend you my cup. And he sings this nice little verse about the shape of the cup being dark like the face of the Lord of Death, and how perfect and round it is. And then he goes off to find Mila, and Mila tells the story that, sorry, I was late, I was bitten by a dog, and was delayed by 3 or 4 days. And this little sort of vignette tells us nothing, it doesn't add anything to the story, it doesn't tell us anything about the trials or tribulations of Life of Milarepa, but it gives us this real like, sort of visceral moment in the life of someone in 12th century Tibet.
Was that from a fragment, or just...
No, this is something that Tanya Naruga himself sort of invented a whole lot, or got from somewhere. And so he adds little sort of tidbits like that throughout. He also, he re-edits certain elements of the story, so he sort of changes the narrative to create kind of dramatic tension, where something will happen, and then almost cinematographically he'll cut away to something else, only to come back to that former episode kind of resolved later on, sort of building this moment of tension in the story. He also, he creates a much more beautiful language, so he does a lot of sort of textual editing, both of the songs and of the actual dialogue, so he creates a kind of beautiful sounding dialogue as well. He builds up some of the key moments of the story, so the moments in which Mila is being forced to undergo these terrible trials, where he's building towers and becoming sort of incredibly emotional and emotionally fraught, driving Mila to the point of suicide. And so in that sense kind of draws the reader in, develops a kind of empathy. Right? There's a real sense of pathos in the story. I mean, it really was a fine literary style. And this is something which is recognized even by Tibetan literary critics themselves, going back several hundred years.
Well, thank you so much.